Going into this movie, I didn't really think I'd be making this video. I just happened to stumble upon the film on Netflix, read a couple reviews, and thought it'd be a relaxing film to watch when I finally got some free time. Seeing as I've got a track record of making videos on niche melodramatic anime movies that nobody really watches, like Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop and Bell, I guess this kind of fits with the brand. But hey, watching these sorts of anime films is definitely my guilty pleasure. Right off the bat, Drifting Home exceeded my typical expectations of this genre. From Studio Colorido, the studio that animated Penguin Highway and Burn the Witch, Drifting Home tells a story of a bunch of elementary school children who somehow got swept away into a vast, mysterious ocean as they explore a soon-to-be-demolished apartment building. There aren't actually a lot of characters in this movie, and we get introduced to basically all of them right at the beginning. Natsume is the strong-willed girl who harbors some deep childhood trauma that's expanded on later. Kosuke is the cold but pretty caring leader type. Reina is the spoilt, bratty type girl who has a crush on Kosuke. Juri is the soft-spoken girl who's Reina's best friend and keeps her under control. Taishi is just the clueless, most childlike character. And Yuzuru, who's just a nice, caring person, I guess. I will say that although the film has all these characters as the main cast, the film does focus on the relationship between Natsume and Kosuke the most. The plot begins when Kosuke and Natsume are having an argument on top of an abandoned apartment building where they used to live before it was set to get demolished, and a sudden shower of rain sweeps down, putting them in what I can only call an alternate dimension, where the apartment building is floating in a vast, seemingly empty sea. They then meet Noppo, another elementary school kid who is later to be revealed as some sort of spirit that essentially represents the apartment building. Throughout the film, the group of children try to survive on their own, rationing their existing food, finding other drifting buildings to find supplies, and even sorting out arguments and differences. As the fact that they aren't actually going to get home without them doing anything starts to settle in, they begin to unravel the mystery of why they're here. It's not really explained in the movie, but my interpretation is that Noppo, being the spirit of the building, was holding on to Natsume as she cherishes this building and the memories she has there, causing the entire group to be stranded there because of that bond. For obvious reasons, this causes quite a bit of conflict within the rest of the group, especially as this apartment building was only home to Kosuke and Natsume, so the other children were basically just dragged into this mess. But obviously, things end up working out at the very end, and they all go home happy. Normally, I would hate this sort of cookie-cutter plot. It's so painfully obvious that the kids are going to work everything out and get home all safe and happy. But what surprised me was the lengths and the stuff the kids needed to do to get to that point. And they only reached home by the last 5 or so minutes of the film. There were multiple points in the film where they were able to get back home safely, but something messed up would happen, causing them to keep staying. And when I mean messed up, it really is quite messed up for what looked like some kids' film. Natsume's hand gets torn holding onto some exposed steel mesh. Juri literally gets her head hit on a concrete slab and starts bleeding, causing her to pass out for a while. Or even Natsume selfishly choosing to stay in the ocean with the abandoned apartment, despite everyone else's objections. During this sequence, she nearly dies to get back to the apartment, and Kosuke nearly dies trying to get her back. Meanwhile, you mix in some childhood trauma from Natsume and a couple of pseudo-horror sequences, the film gets a bit more tough than a late-night relaxation film. In terms of art, soundtrack, and general direction, I think Drifting Home is pretty good. The art is just beautiful with every scene, similar to Studio Colorido's previous work in Penguin Highway and Burn the Witch. The vast open sea mixed with broken down abandoned buildings really highlights the scale of it all. Similarly, the soundtrack is also superb. Coming from Umitaro Abe, the same man who composed the soundtrack for Penguin Highway, just captures the loneliness, fear, and glimmers of hope that the children feel throughout the journey, elevating the experience tenfold. Overall, Drifting Home was a decent watch. I had low expectations going in, and I finished it pleasantly surprised. The movie isn't going to change anyone's lives or give you deep philosophical topics for you to think about, but if you want to sit down and watch something that's a little above the average melodramatic anime film, I think it's definitely worth a watch.